Having fully regained her composure, she walked over to the man. At her approach, he made a futile attempt to arise, but was only able to draw himself together and sit more erect. The picture of abject fear. Hatred was delineated in every movement of his body, which was trembling as though stricken with palsy. Our hostess, now cool and collected, with no trace of fear or emotion, her face, features, and body, as wonderfully cut as the most delicate cameo, presented an amazing contrast. We wanted to remove the man at once, and although this thought was not expressed, our hostess raised her hand, commanding silence. Our chief realized that she was in charge of the situation, and that anything we would attempt to do would only place us in a ludicrous position. We withdrew out of hearing, while our hostess talked in low and quiet tones for some time before the man answered a word. As he spoke, the lady motioned us to approach. We sat on the ground before them, glad to make any move that would relieve the tension of suspense. The bandit explained that he had prevailed upon his superior leaders to allow him to come as a peace emissary to treat with the people for the surrender of the supposed treasure that was concealed in the Tall Cross Temple. If the inhabitants would surrender the treasure, the bandits would agree not to molest them further, would agree to release all their prisoners, of which they claimed there were over 3,000, and would immediately leave the country and never again molest the inhabitants of the valley. Our hostess told him there was no treasure that would be of any value to them. A thorough explanation of the fact was gone into, with an offer to conduct him through all the rooms of the temple, or any place he wished to go. He flatly refused this proposition, saying that he feared they would hold him as hostage, and no assurance upon our part could break down his fear. Our hostess reassured him of our sincerity, and he suddenly became convinced that we were honest in our statements. Then a situation difficult and alarming for him arose. He told us that he was the instigator of this plot, and had fired the imagination of the other bandits with the zeal for possessing the treasure, and that he had painted a lurid picture of the fabulous wealth that would be theirs should he succeed. In fact, he and his father had held their band together with promises of the possession of this treasure. He was the chief of the band that had consolidated with 5 other bands to carry out this raid. The crux of this situation was that if he should return to his band with the information that there was no treasure, he would immediately be branded as a traitor, and as such would be dealt with accordingly. He could not deter the band from the contemplated attack, as they would not believe him on account of his zeal in pressing the situation up to this point. It was decidedly an embarrassing position for him. To our great surprise, our hostess offered to accompany him to the camp. Our protests were quietly overruled, and she prepared to leave immediately. She assured us that she was in no danger, but that if we went along, our presence would instill suspicion in the minds of the bandits, so that all would incur great danger. We meekly submitted. There was nothing else we could do. The man mounted his horse, and we assisted her to mount to the seat that was prepared behind him. As they rode from the village, they presented a never-to-be-forgotten picture, one that will live in our memories for all eternity. The bandit with doubt written all over his features, and our hostess smiling back at us with the warm assurance that she would return to the village until sunset. She would not return until sunset. We returned to the lodge to await the return of our hostess, and upon entering, we found the tables loaded with good things to eat. You can imagine our astonishment to see her seated at the head of the table and greeting us with that radiant smile of hers. We were speechless. Words failed us entirely. She assumed an air of mock hauteur, and tried to say sternly, "Gentlemen, a greeting is in order," whereupon we bowed and extended our salutations. Then she continued, "I failed utterly to convince them, but they did agree to give me an answer within the next 3 days. I know that the answer will be an attempted attack, but I did save the life of that poor creature for the time being, at least. We shall be obliged to prepare ourselves to withstand the siege. Nothing will deter them from making the attempt." I think that nearly all of us saw our fondest dreams and the results go a-glimmering. As the familiar saying has it, our hostess read our inmost thoughts and repeated this poem. When you come to the Red Sea place in your life, when in spite of all you can do, there is no way round, there is no way back, there is no other way but through, then know God with a soul serene, and the dark and the storm are gone. God stills the wind, God stills the waves. God says to your soul, go on, go on, go on, go on. Chapter 3. After the meal was finished, we arose from the table, our hostess leading us into the garden. To our great surprise, we found Jesus, Emil, Jast, and Bud Raw seated. We joined the group and sat down. We could sense the inaudible sigh of relief and realize how much we had grown to rely upon these people. It was as though we had fastened ourselves to them with bands of steel. Somehow I saw that this we must not do. It was necessary for us to play our definite part in this great scheme of life, in order that we might not become mere puppets. We must stand wholly upon our own feet, and rely wholly upon ourselves, or they would be obliged to sever the bands entirely. Our chief talked freely upon this subject later. The evening was still young, and the soft glow of the fading sunset colors sufficed everything with a luxuriance and beauty that one must see to appreciate. There was not a breath of air stirring, not even a sound to disturb the tranquility that seemed to engulf us. The bandit situation that we believed had weighed so heavily upon us but a moment before had disappeared entirely. It was calm and peaceful. There was that beautiful feeling of complete relaxation, which again must be experienced to be understood. It was as though we were in a great stream of slowly moving light. We became suddenly aware that we heard the voice of Jesus, but not in words. My only explanation is that it was a pure rhythmic, flowing, vibratory influence that came to us in thought instead of words. The effect was much more pronounced than that of words. The rhythm and the cadence were beyond description. Thoughts seemed to flood in and lodge. This was an entirely new experience. As these thoughts or ideas came, we translated them into stenographic characters, then transposed them into words and sentences later, submitting them to these people for approval. When I say, "Behold, a Christ of God is here," I behold the God-man standing forth. I see this body as the true temple of God, the perfect instrument or channel through which the great creative principle flows and comes forth freely. Then this creation is unadulterated in image, form, and likeness. I am God. In this attitude I stand forth the master of every situation, the Christ of God, triumphant. It is this ideal that I worship, and that which I worship I bring forth. I can in no way bring forth God if I does not present God to all humanity. In this attitude man stands forth, the master of every situation. The Christ is triumphant, conquering. God and man are walking hand in hand, one. There is but one principle, one man. One of our party thought for a moment and then asked, "How can we bring forth this light and make practical use of it?" The answer came, Let your body become a generator through which this great creative, radiating principle flows. See this principle as the emanation of all power. Know that it is the principle of all power. Then, like an electric generator, your body will collect and magnify this energy until you send it out as a stream of pure white light that nothing can resist, and anything directed toward you cannot harm you. You can also send such intense impulses of electrical energy over these light beams that the body of the one attempting to harm you will be destroyed. All resistance to this energy immediately magnifies its volume and therefore its velocity. The ones setting up resistance against it or attempting to set up their personal will only harm themselves. If they do not set up any resistance to this light, it will pour its healing balm through them as well as it does through you. It is the pure God beam and power which blends with that of another at all times if there is no resistance to its free flow. It vibrates with the highest vibration. Consequently, all are vibrating in perfect harmony and accord, and no harm can possibly come to them as they are in unison with the God vibration. There's absolutely nothing that can harm another unless that one resists the God vibration. Vibration is life. Do you not see how you stand one with God at all time? In this attitude, would there be a possibility of separation? The only separation is the resistance that causes the inharmony. Nothing can come near you when you stand in the holy mount, one with God. This is not a special privilege for a few. This is for all. I am the great absolute cause or source in which every child stands one with God. Thus all live under the law, the highest vibratory thought action. There is not an inharmonious vibration that can enter this sphere, this throne, where all belong and are at home. This is your divine kingdom. You can also use this power to return false and harmful thoughts or desires that are directed toward you. You can, if you so desire, step up this white God-light beam, endow it with God power, magnify and transform the energy the sender has given the thing or condition that was intended for you, then place it into your reflector and send it back to the sender with the velocity of light. When you return it in this way, it is a beam of pure white light instead of merely lowered vibrations as it was sent out to you. When it reaches the sender, the impulses are so potent that it can destroy the body of the one who first put in motion the lower vibration. It matters not whether you know the sender or the location from which it came. The vibration will return to its source unerringly. The judgment or day of retribution has arrived. As you give, so you receive good measure, God measure, pressed down and running over. You can transform God power and send it out with such force that it is irresistible. These are the beams or rays of light that you see emanating from my body. These rays are emanating from your body, although they are not yet as potent. But as you go on and use this power, allied with law and principle, you will add potency to the light and can consciously direct it to accomplish any good desire. When the artist portrayed me at Gethsemane, the rays of light went out from my body instead of coming out from heaven to me. The light is the God power generated from within my body, then sent out by the reflector. These beams go out from everybody when that person stands forth as God in his divine heritage, the Christ of God, all one. This is and can be made the definite motto of all humanity. Can there be discord between brothers if they become this all-absorbing one? Now step up this white beam, which is the God beam, upon which you send out God power. Endow it with God power transformed 10,000 or 10 million times greater than that which has been sent out to you, and which you are returning. This is as you decree. Then let it flow back upon the same path that the vibrations of the thing traveled to you. When the person receives this ray and accepts it as coming from God, the attempted harm is all erased, forgiven, forgotten, and no harm can come to you or the sender of that harmful thought. You are both eye to eye one with God. Instead of inharmony, there is perfect harmony. You are again one. If the sender of the harmful thought does not accept the white ray, which you have sent out in all its potency, his body will be destroyed. This pure white ray will completely erase every vibration of harm or discord if allowed to complete its perfect work. If resisted, there is nothing but a perfect erasure for the one who holds determinedly to the resistance. His resistance draws to him the whole creative principle adversely as to the square of the resistance set up. The square means multiplying the resistance 4 times. Thus you see, as you send out good or evil, it will return to you 4-fold.